Even Ric Flair, I think you managed some of his businesses too.
No, we managed all. We had a great. I think we had about an 8 or 9 year run with Rick, and so when I say I've been all over the world, Ric Flair been all over the world. Ric Flair.
Yeah, and I bet that was a wild. That had to be a wild ride.
Yeah.
And things we can't say.
100% we cannot say here.
All right, so you're running gyms. In fact, at one time you were like one of the largest Gold's Gym franchise owners. Was that?
Yeah. Well, we were the largest consulting company in the health club industry in the United States.
I like that, Charlie. All right, let me start. When we start here today, tell me kind of your background, your upbringing. Just anything in the background that leads you to where you are.
Sure.
And we've been friends so long, it's going to be easy to talk.
No, 100%. Born in Phoenix City, Alabama. I always say if I had a poor contest, generally I'd win it. We moved from really small rental house. The reason we moved, looked up, all of a sudden the power was cut off, and you knew rent hadn't been paid, and so, oh no, we got to move to another rental house. And so, so at the end of the day, because of that, but I say that in the fact of, it really wasn't that bad. It sounds bad, but it really wasn't that bad. Still loved by my mom and dad. Dad was an alcoholic, still loved him, still got great memories of him. But ultimately through that, you go one way or the other. It's going to make you try a little harder, or you're going to give in. And so with that background, I tried a little harder. And so got lucky. It was funny, hilarious. Bumped on a guy, my senior in high school, bumped into a guy literally on a dance floor at a discotheque. Bill, you probably remember those.
So you were doing the disco?
I did the disco at Stack Hills back then.
The spinning light.
Spinning light. Bumped into him. Anyway, long story short, he managed a club in Opelika, Alabama. I had to work my way through Auburn. I said, I'll take the job. He said, you have no clue how much you're going to pay. I said, I don't care. I got to have a job up there because I don't have any money to get through school. So worked Tuesdays and Thursdays and Saturdays. Back in 1974, there was no such thing as men and women working out in the same room. So men worked out Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday in that club. So I worked my classes around Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturdays. Went from a salesperson, the same scenario, assistant manager, and went from there. But that's what started Health Club.
How about that? Yeah, now I do remember those days when they were separate. The genders were
separate.
Yeah.
Either separate health clubs, women's only, or men, or you had one club and they went separate days. Changed my major. Originally, I thought I was going to stay in construction because I'd worked for Mullen Richards construction company under Paul Wynn, toting brick and block. And then I said, okay, fine, let me change it to business because that was the weak part of the health club industry. It wasn't the physical side, it's the business side. So changed to business, and then got my biggest start. I was transferred up to Valley, Alabama, and I was assistant manager. Neat story, Bill, you'll like this.
Yeah.
The owner of the building, who I'd never met, came in. His name was Mr. Hugh Hood, and he said, are you Charlie Lindsey? I said, yes, sir, I am. And he said, can you run this health club? And I said, well, I think I can. Yeah, I was assistant manager. And he said, well, good. I'm about to fire everybody here. I heard that you're honest and you're a hard worker. So he said, and he did. And he said, I hadn't got my rent in 6 months. And he said, I want to get my rent. And he said something about helping me get ownership. And I really didn't listen. I was just happy to have a job and become the manager.
Right.
So a year later, fast forward, I came back to him, and I had run into a good friend of mine in Atlanta, Kevin Case.
Yeah, I know Kevin.
And Kevin had talked to me about coming up there in the health club business, and I went back to Mr. Hood, and I said, well, I think we'll go to Atlanta. You said something about ownership or something, and he said, well, no, you're not going anywhere. He said, you're going to own this club. I said, Mr. Hood, I don't have any money.
Right, yeah.
and you could do this. Back then, he went to the bank, and the bottom line, he had a pile of money in the bank, and you could do that back then. Forced them to lend me money. I paid him that back over a 7-year payoff, and that was my first health club.
How about
And so he got profit plus his rent,
Yes.
and he gave me a great start.
Wow. And you probably learned more during that time when you got in that seat. I mean, it was all on you.
It was all on me. It was all on me, and because he was a pharmacist, didn't know anything about the health club business. And so, but through that, I started networking with a lot of different people in the health club industry. one of them being Tim Goodwin.
Great guy.
Down in Dothan, we both shared bodybuilding as a commonality. Tim had a great health club. Tim was 5 years my senior, who I later became partners with for 25 years. You know.
I remember that. And you and Tim, y'all were kind of the yin and yang.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, you were the sales guy, the visionary, and Tim was that guy that squeezed a nickel, buffalo nickel till he burped. You know?
Oh, yeah, so, just fantastic. He got a master's degree in finance and just couldn't brag on him enough. You know? And Tim was the type guy where he would believe in me and believe in us as a team more than I would. Wow. He'd say, no, you can do it. And so that was a lot of encouragement. And I always tell the story. For those 25 years, I never got mad at Tim. And people say, well, Charlie, I know that's not true because I've heard y'all argue before to the point that I thought y'all were going to go to blows. I said, no, there's different. We had a disagreement. I said, but Tim never brought greed or ego into the meeting. And so you can't be mad at somebody if they just want what's best for the business, just because they're a different idea. But that's the key. He never brought greed or ego into the meeting. And so I never got mad at him. That
is so good. Yeah, you're right. And that's probably the downfall to a lot of businesses.
Yes. And
that you were able to keep that. Now, in those days, too, gyms that I remember in my day when I was coming up, they were just old sweat boxes, no air conditioning, just heavy weights, none of this high-tech equipment and specialized classes. That was kind of where you started, right?
Oh, we started the dungeon at the YMCA, and that's literally what we called it, no air conditioning. I don't even think we had a upholstery on the benches. I literally think it was bench. And some of those guys, we talk about those old days. We had a blast. It was fantastic. I wouldn't change anything about those days. But I'm not sure whether the words graduate or not, but it's a different day.
Yeah.
And that's why I see these younger guys now. I love them to death. It's not what I do today. And we have to be careful about intimidation and things like that in our health clubs. But at the same time, I love them to death because I was lucky. I was one of those guys.
That's right. Yeah, you were what we'd call old school.
100%. Yeah.
But the thing is, you learned probably just on that side, the bodybuilding side, you learned the mechanics, the body, how it's made. It wasn't just come in here and jump on this machine and 10 minutes later a computer tells you what you've done and how much you've lost. You knew how much you lost, but how much sweat's on the floor and whether they went out tired, not sure they're coming back. You kind of had. That was the era where you had there were bigger bodies and hardcore.
No, and over time you evolve because people, whether it's myself back in the old days or somebody else, people ask you questions. How did you get that chest? How did you get that bicep? And that sort of thing. And at some point you scientifically or intelligently have to answer that question rather than just work out, right? And so over time I was lucky where between knowing people and read and that sort of thing, and I migrated to California, even though I didn't have any, I hardly had enough money to get the flight to go out there, but I went out there and I got lucky, bumped into some people, some of my legendary people and that sort of thing. And, I got fortunate, managed 6 times Miss Olympia Corey Everson for 6 years. Flew all over the world with her, and then we did some clubs with her, and then through her, I met Arnold and all the Tom Platz and Frank Zane and all these guys. Just a lot of fun.
The people that we read about, I know that was the thing. You had a connection to all of them back there, and they really did. They made a science out of bodybuilding.
Yes.
I remember one time going to a doctor and he said, "You need to pull off some weight," and I said, "Well, what do you recommend?" And the doctor was real honest. He said, "Do you know anybody that is a bodybuilder?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "My suggestion is, Bill," he said, "they know more than us doctors about a lot of that." And he said, "We can give you some pills and tell you don't do this, but they will show you strategic workouts." And he said, "Bodybuilders know a whole lot more than you think." And you got in that and met those folks and that.
Yeah, it was really, and sometimes fitness is like fashion. It kind of moves around. You can only say so much and then you got to move around. And one place it is right now that I happen to agree with is the fact of, we have to have muscle, whether we're female or male and that sort of thing. And the more muscle we have, the higher your metabolism in, and so it gives you more grace on the diet side. The bottom line, you're going to be in better shape, right? And so that's common knowledge now, where in the old days it was something that we had to kind of challenge other people to think that way, right? Because, as soon as Dr. Kenneth Cooper came on board, I was talking, it's funny,
Yeah.
you know, we use the word aerobics, right? When
Yeah.
somebody said aerobics class, I said, you realize when I came up as exercise. At Carriage Townhouse Apartments, I led Charlie's exercise class to tray out rent, right?
Yeah.
And so, but when Dr. Kenneth Cooper came out, and it was great, it's great for your heart.
Yeah.
So everybody started jogging, everybody started doing cardio, and there was kind of movement away from weights, but ultimately it has to be that right balance. It really is.
That's what I was thinking. The balance of that is that there's a lot of injuries, I think, in all of this fast running, go from this machine to that machine, see how fast you can do it. And there's no technique.
Yes.
You don't know. There's not even the consistent repetition.
Yes.
It's just running here and that's why I think probably orthopedic surgeons are making a killing today.
No, and you're exactly right. And I had the privilege of training you and Miss Debbie.
Yes.
And so.
And we saw results too with you. That was what I loved.
I mean, I watched it. I watched you go from 20-pound dumbbells to 70s, repping out, and no injury.
Yeah.
We went from couldn't hardly run around the block to we had a 45-minute to an hour run, just talking at the same time. But I call it sneaking up on fitness.
Yeah.
From the standpoint you take it just easy, you watch, there's no reason to do exercise going to get injured because it keeps you from being in shape. The whole point about injury is it's if you do anything all out 100%, eventually over time you're going to injure to that. The key is to learn how to pace yourself and add just a little bit of time. And if you do that, then you don't have to worry about injury. I don't care whether you're doing it from bodybuilding or Ironman events, or it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's the same principle. And in that, it also is male and female because, you know, when you talk to the physical therapists or orthopedic surgeons, we were partners with Dr. James Andrews for years, so I got to know that some of the top in the game of people that make their living, you know, doing physical. But again, it's the same principle from the standpoint, if it hurts, don't do it, right? And the key is we have to recover, and there's a proper balance in that. And if you do it that way, it gets fun, and you're able to do it for many years, and that's what I love.
Yeah,
you know?
And so you're really listening to your body too.
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
and letting it give you the information. This is too much, or I can endure this.
Yeah, it's taking each body part, training it, letting it rest, and consistently doing it. And that's just as simple as it is.
Yeah, and now you actually did bodybuilding yourself.
I did.
Did you do weightlifting? You did both. Was it powerlifting?
Powerlifting.
And bodybuilding?
I did. Really enjoyed success in both. Started off as a powerlifter. I didn't realize, I thought I was 6'5" most of my life, but somewhere in high school I learned I was 5'6", and so therefore the only thing I controlled is how strong I got. So I started really weight training or powerlifting earlier to get the only advantage I could in sports, because I love playing sports, and back then they always talked about, well, it'll make you muscle bound, you'll be slow, and so I literally would have to. Matter of fact, my high school coach was Coach Howard. He passed away a couple of weeks ago, but we laughed about that not long ago, because I would sneak outside and lift after practice because I knew it would give me an advantage, and it did. And so with that, I started powerlifting, broke a couple of bench press records in the state of Alabama, and then migrated from there into bodybuilding. I won the Mr. Alabama bodybuilding champion in 1983.
How about that? And I can see it too. If people don't realize it, but you and I would run together, have to work out, and it's only one of the best features I have is my legs. And people would say, "Man, you got strong legs, good legs," and I look at you, and your legs are like tree trunks. I mean, muscle. And I'm like, my soul, he could lift a mule with that. And I guess probably all that powerlifting was.
It's powerlifting, and that's what's great about it. Muscle has a lot of memory, and so, you know, the advice to young people and older people is, but especially young people, you build that foundation, it really doesn't go away. I got major discussions with people about how hard it is to burn muscle once you establish. It's hard to get on, but it's really hard to lose it. Muscle has a lot of memory, so don't give up. You can come back, and you can really.
Yeah, I found that I will lay off for 6 months, and the crazy thing is the muscle will start coming back, and you can start seeing definition again quicker.
Yep.
And it's just because of the muscle, I guess you started early on.
That's exactly right.
All right, now, and then when you got into bodybuilding, Tim also did that. You met a lot of other people in bodybuilding.
Yeah, it was fun. you know, all of a sudden you get in bodybuilding, and I knew as far as I could take it was the state title, and that was my goal. And then from there, Tim and I both were co-chairman of the National Physique Committee in the state of Alabama. So the bottom line, we organized all the judging, and then what was the funny story about that, I dragged my wife around all these bodybuilding shows, promoted bodybuilding shows, and that's how we ended up meeting the Corey Everson, the Lou Farinos, and things, because we'd have them as guest posers, right? And but Donna became a judge like what we were, but she had the lowest deviations for like 3 or 4 years in the Southeast. So she was the #1 bodybuilding judge because of her deviations.
Right.
So at the end of the day, she had a real good eye for guys' body. I guess women's body too.
Well, and to be chosen by Donna, that's a good thing. Awesome, that's an awesome wife. And she looked at all the other men and doesn't have to say, well, I wish you'd be like them. That's the cool thing. All right, now let me ask you on that one. Some of those guys, I remember the Tom Platts, I remember Lou and all this, and they were all elite. Who was kind of the king of all of them?
Well, you know, I'm just always partial to Arnold. I mean, we talk about it all day long, you know, and matter of fact, somebody sent me an old video recently, and I still love his body type. I mean, he had the small joints, he had the just beautiful curved muscle, and whether it was his chest or whether it was his biceps and that sort of thing. And of course, you add all the other business accomplishments that he's made and that sort of thing. And I mean, you know, again, obviously he stumbled a couple of times, but at the end of the day, if you just look at him from his confidence, my goodness, what a focused individual.
Yeah.
I mean, unbelievable.
Yeah, and he was so far ahead of everybody else. I mean, he broke the ceiling.
He did.
And he set that bar so high, everybody had to get up to that to even try to. Now, let me ask you this too, along that. What is, how much of it is mental in any kind of a sport like that? How much of it is as much or more mental? Yeah,
and well, since we're on Arnold, we'll talk about that. I mean, obviously, whether it be Corey Everson or whether it be Arnold, they are genetic gifted to a whole different level. But to get to their level, the rest of it is mental and hard work. There's a lot of people that have the genetics of Arnold. I want to say a lot of it. Yeah. There's 2 or 3% of guys I run into that they just have a testosterone level that's naturally high. They have the structure that's perfectly, but they don't have the work ethic or they don't have the mental ability to be able to accomplish what they do. Corey was one of the hardest working people, both in workouts and outside of that, and we're still good friends. We talked just a couple of weeks ago.
And I would think too, the mental side of that would be you don't quit, you don't give up. It'd be like we may be side by side gonna do some things, but you'll never beat me mentally. I'm not breaking, I'm not quitting.
No, that's it. And one of the things that we and Bill, let me compliment you, between Build Purpose Leadership and Cascade Hills, there's probably a day that go by that I'll quote you.
There's something right here, buddy.
Hang on.
I got them for me.
Yeah, we go. But with that said, we can control 2 things. We can control our attitude and how hard we work, and that's what I try to teach my guys. And when I say my guys, my girls and guys, and I try to be an example of is I can control those 2 things. And when it comes to hard work, you're not going to outwork me.
Yeah.
And so ultimately, if you take that attitude, then you'll look up and you'll receive dividends from that. And you can use that in any area you want to.
That's right.
I mean, I have a hobby of fishing, but when I fish, I do it all out.
All in. That's it.
It's not hanging out. It's getting after.
There's a fish in there. I'm gonna get it.
It's between me and the fish.
That's it.
But also there's big dividends because it's just no other way to do it. And it's really neat when all of a sudden you see, because my partner of 25 years retired, and so now my new partners are an average of 32 years of age. Well, I got to get after it, right?
Yeah,
Well, you know,
they've
you work
got
around
the
young people all the
energy
time.
Yep,
yeah,
that's
and
right.
so I have to stay in shape, I have to stay. But it's just so good to see them, because when they turn around and you know, you kind of running side by side with them, and not only physically, but you're running those days with them, and that's what keeps me active. I'm very blessed about that.
Yeah,
really,
that's
so.
and there's so much.
Thanks for that coaching. I appreciate that.
No, I tell you this on your end. I have said this to everybody. You are my mentor on several areas, but that one particularly, the body. I would say I ain't listening to nobody else. I'm gonna listen to Charlie.
Right,
you deliver the goods. You've been there. You've done it. You got the T-shirts and more to prove it. And so I hear a lot of people that have ideas and read books, and I said, and my son Brent and I do the same thing. We'll say, nah, what does Charlie say? Because I know you've been there. And like I say, just the people like that excuse me, that you've known and met and run the circles with, and they trust you enough to say, okay, all these many years, Charlie, you're with me, and you helped train me, and you promoted them. And then you even got in the business part, on the business side of it. Even Ric Flair, I think you even managed some of his businesses too.
No, we managed all. We had a great, I think we had about an 8 or 9 year run with Rick, and it was Ric Flair's Gold's Gym based out of Charlotte. We even did a club with him in the Isle of St. Martin. And so when I say I've been all over the world, Ric Flair, been all over the world, Ric Flair.
Yeah, and I bet that was a wild, that had to be a wild ride.
Yeah.
And things we can't say.
100% we cannot say here. No, it's funny, when they did the 30-30 show and a lot of people called me and said, was that all true? And I said, to be honest with you, they calmed it down because nobody believed it. Now, I'm not exaggerating.
Yeah.
Why Ric Flair did not die 30 years ago, I have no clue. He has the best recovery body I've ever seen.
And gets up every morning with a party on his mind.
He really does. If I can, though, I'll tell one Ric Flair story. Cybex, which is one of the national equipment companies, asked me to get Rick to speak at a big event they had with all the national salespeople, and so we arranged everything and got cost, and so we flew in, and Rick has never written anything down in his life,
right?
Not one note ever, but he's never forgotten anything.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
It's very good.
Very interesting. Never, you know, all that stuff with the wrestling you see, and everybody else, they get backstage and they practice all that. Rick never does that, right? So right before he goes on stage, he looks at Tim and I, and he said, now, who am I speaking to? He said, it's national sales representative. So he gets up there and speaks to him. And so, you know, I went to the guys and I said, well, how do you like Rick? And here was the kicker. And this is back when you could afford Arnold to come. Arnold had spoke to him the day before. And they said, now, Arnold was good, but Rick got us pumped up.
Yeah.
He said the way Rick spoke, it was like it was speaking to us individually. And so he had that ability when he's talking to you, and Bill, you do a good job of that, to where you would feel like you're the only person in the room, and then everybody else in the back would feel like you're talking to them too. I don't know what it is about Rick that has that ability, he does.
That's right. It was the draw. It was the energy.
Yes.
There's something that just connected with people, and they didn't want to turn him off. They almost were disappointed when he quit.
100%.
Yeah.
One other story, and we'll go on.
Yeah, I want to hear it.
So we're in a Jeep. We're in Isle of St. Martin, and I get lost. We're turning around. All of a sudden, I see a bunch of Antillians, a bunch of local guys. They started going, Ric Flair, Ric Flair. And I go, man, we're in St. Martin.
Yeah.
We're not in Atlanta, Columbus, Georgia. This guy's known worldwide.
Yep.
And it is just amazing.
Known globally
Known
like that.
globally.
That's great.
So anyway, we had a great time.
All right, so you're running gyms. In fact, at one time, you were like one of the largest Gold's Gym franchise owners. Was that?
Yeah, well, we were the largest consulting company in the health club industry in the United States. We had over 100 clubs from here to the West Coast, and we operated many Gold's Gyms, but we operated under several different names. And so it was a great run. Thank goodness I got a patient wife, because I stayed on the road a lot, because you got over 100 managers, you got regional directors, and not all of them are perfect.
Now, let me ask you, yes, for sure. It'd be like herding cats.
I know your life always runs smooth, but
no, it don't. It'd be like herding cats. You'd be like, oh, let me go. You'd sometimes just want to say, thank God this is not as big a problem as the one I just left. You know? And that would be the thing when you were doing that and setting it up. You kind of know, you've been doing it so long, it's almost like just get such a feel for it. It's natural.
Yeah.
So you can walk into a gym and walk into a business, and pretty well quickly assess where the strong points and the weak points are, and what they need to do to make this thing flow or get off the plateau. It's just experience. Is that?
It really is, and my partner's retired now, but he said it many times. You know, we finally got this age that we kind of got an idea of what we need to do. You know, it'd be a shame to retire. You know, and then what gets fun, I was looking at locations for a group in Greenville, South Carolina. They want to do several large clubs, and so I walked into a really nice club there, and we met with a broker. Well, the broker said, yeah, my neighbor owned 400 health clubs. Well, before he said anything, I'm going to know this guy, right?
Yeah, you would know, because you know everybody on the field.
It was Jeff Barrett. And I said, oh, yeah, I know Jeff Barrett. We'd done some projects with him. And well, the next thing I hadn't talked to Jeff in 10 years. You know, he called me, what are you doing in Greenville? We just had a great conversation. He had operated out of Ohio and actually had done some clubs in Mexico. And so I went down to Mexico. There was a guy named Ray Wilson that originally invented the life cycle, that had done a bunch of stuff up here, and now he's doing some projects in Mexico. So it was fun meeting him.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's what I wanted people to know about you. By the way, is that you've had, you know, you've networked all over the globe, and the beauty of it is people know you. And the one thing I know is that they all respect you. I mean, everybody that I know will talk about Charlie knows what he's doing. I mean, it's not like he's coming here bluffing anything. That guy has been there and done it, and they'll put their money on you. And around other places where people have businesses like that, I'd say to anybody starting one, I wouldn't start one without talking to you, because you know.
Well, I appreciate you're kind, and I think so in the health club business, obviously, there was other businesses besides us, but we get hit hard, and so but we're on the way back. You know, fitness is not something that's going to die because of COVID.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, it's about time for us to tell that message that, you know, not only through COVID, other things, if we're fit, we're going to be able to make those battles better.
Yeah.
And so I think it's time for us to do that. But yeah, I think it just gets back to understanding and then analyzing, and it literally gets back to the word helping people. And if you do that, it makes a difference. It really does.
When you and now too with the with the COVID, that kind of came overnight, and then they shut it all off and said, okay, no more gyms and all that, and just closed it down. Y'all had to feel that pretty hard, didn't you?
We did. We really did. And I guess with that, and I have to be careful because, you know, I've got friends in California still not open. One of my best buddies up in New Jersey, one of the best operators in the country, he had to close because even though they let him open, everybody's too scared to walk on the street.
Yeah.
So, see what I'm saying? So we were blessed to be in the Southeast. We are moving more, but it's getting better every day. And the key is, and Bill, you've taught me this, at the end of the day, when, you know, times get tough, you still just go back to waking up every day and just working hard and doing the right thing. And over time, it will work out.
Yeah.
Because that's the part you can control,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so, because ultimately, we have to have peace in the middle of whatever it is.
Right.
Which gives you, it sounds strange, but peace and confidence go together.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And to know the confidence that you are going to make it, you know.
Yeah, and I think it's true. You give up when you suddenly say, "Oh, it's so bad, and the sky's falling, I can't get out."
Yeah.
In some ways, you have to find a way to always flip the script.
Yes.
And I guess you'd say, "Okay, well, here's the good news and the bad news. The good news is, or the bad news is, everybody just got shut down. The good news is only half of them going to reopen, so our competition's less."
No, you're exactly right. And again, I go back to what you've continued to teach me and others, is from a standpoint that you have a tendency when you're faced with a problem to freeze or to paralyze. And that's not how we're designed, right? We should do the opposite. And so part of what I try to do, not only for myself, is to give encouragement in those standpoints and saying, okay, fine, here's what we do and those steps to do it, right? Because we function better when we have a clear plan and we're moving forward. And it's been fun doing it. I had the privilege, we have a contract with LA Fitness, and they're hit by LAF. We provide all their programming inside those clubs, and it's been a great relationship because they're the largest chain in North America.
Okay.
The two owners are individually billionaires, and so both of them have been here, and just neat. It's just a privilege to get to know them. And so it's fun watching them because they've been hit too, but they're more confident now. They're going to be growing. It's really neat to
They just
watch
think
them.
different when the problem's there, isn't it?
They do,
Yeah.
because they've seen it before.
Yeah.
You know, the good thing about being what's the old saying? It's not the lick you can toss; it's the lick you can take.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's right.
And
That's right.
so I've been hit a couple of times,
Yeah.
and COVID ain't taking me out.
That's
right.
right.
And I say that through the help.
Yeah.
Through God's blessing and my team.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, and the experience of that, I love it. And now, and the adjustments you've had to make. Yeah. Now, through all this, what are the things you said? Okay, we just throw it away. It forces change. It forced you to say we got to evolve. We got to do it different. But were there any new things that you began to pick up and say, okay, like for example, I know Peloton right now. One time it was CrossFit. Now it's Peloton because you're able to exercise at home with a group setting like that. Sure. And so I'm sure there's all kind of competitors, but there's also things you learn from.
It is, and again, I'm lucky. Thank goodness for these young studs I've got around me now. We as well as some other people are looking at online training. We're looking at where the future of the business. There was a girl named Emma Berry. She's the most sought after fitness consultant in the world, and I'd spoken at an event down in Orlando. Thank goodness I went before her because she was one of the best speakers I've ever heard in my life. And I said, Emma, what does a health club business look like 5 and 10 years now? She said, well, people will continue to go 3 or 4 times a week. Some of them will want online training to where they can train in their home with their trainer or with a coach or with their instructor, and they'll come 2 times a week. And now there's even a third group, and the third group says, I'm really too intimidated to walk into a large health club, but I still want that personal trainer there. They go online. Yeah. And so we're in the process of developing that software to deliver that. And we're not just the only people, there's other people. And then also I'm working with a couple of major vendors to do home gym products that we will have a program. Like for instance, when I had the privilege of helping you set up a home gym, right? Yep. Well, it'd be that same thing, but you could turn around and all of a sudden have a program with people like Jeremiah Evans, who's one of my team guys, who was the face of Les Mills for 30, world-class guy, unbelievable. So Jeremiah could train you or train Miss Debbie in your house. So we're in the process of developing. Sweet. So to me, it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
I like that.
But the demand's there now. And you can watch it in my industry, the commercial side's hit. Like you take Matrix or Core or any of those companies, the commercial side get hit, but the home gym side went straight up, and it creates balance. We have to do the same thing. We have to listen to the consumer and say, what do they want? And then we have to deliver that. And that part's been fun, and just thank goodness I've got a lot of smart people around me.
Yeah, and I would think that too there is a demand, still a market, like say even better, because in COVID they've been on lockdown, so they've been sitting on the couch eating a lot more. There's going to come a time they're going to say, the doctor says I'm doing bad, my health is not good, my blood sugar's bad, and they're going to say I got to find a way to exercise. Now whether it's going out or going back in, you're there for that.
Yeah, you just have to. We have to be ready to deliver it at home or in the club, whichever they prefer. I mean, that's and have the equipment to do that. And it's been a lot of fun being a part of that.
I think that's the route to go. I think you're right. And the reason I say that is because many years ago, Debbie and I were at dinner with a friend of ours, Mike Patrick, who at that time was the CEO of Carmike Theaters, and he said then that the future of the movie industry is going to go up, and like Netflix. He said people are going to be watching their movies at home, and he said so the big box theater business may not look the same in a few years from now. And of course, COVID rushed it there. But now, during the COVID thing, we've watched 4 or 5 Netflix series that we never saw before, and we've said we've watched probably more movies now than we did before. And so, with the gym thing, putting the same thing is there's a secret to it.
It is, and the knowledge now is unbelievable when it comes to everything, but including fitness. But the demand for that encouragement will always be there too, and that's where the gym, either virtual or one-on-one, makes a difference. Because it literally, you're in the most important business, getting people to accept Christ. I'm in the second most important, take care of your body.
Yes, yeah, that's right.
Because ultimately, and when I say that, taking care of your body, I'm talking about health-wise and that sort of thing. One of the things, as I've gotten older, I've had more of a passion for really older men. It's not that I don't have passion for women, I do, but at the end of the day, I understand what an old man feels like, right? Because I'm him. And so, but at the end of the day, you have a tendency, you work hard, you take care of your family, then you fall apart and you think that's normal. And so, I don't think that's right. I think that there's things that we can do that will make us have more quality of life, and they're not that tough. It's just the men they don't have somebody in their ear encouraging them. It's not a lot of things, it's small things,
right?
But that they can turn around and really, and then now all of a sudden they can really enjoy those golden years. And it's not saying that I could die of a heart attack tomorrow, but at the end of the day, I know I'm doing those right things today, and I know my quality of life has been good up to this point.
And generally that kind of clientele with those guys, I would think most of us guys, unless you have a heart attack and you have a problem, you don't think about taking care of yourself because you think, well, I'm moving enough, I'm working.
Yes.
And I think those things are kind of the wake up call that says, all right, you need to go back and pick up some of the things you used to do when you used to work out, when you were strategic and intentional about it.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
If you live in the Columbus, Georgia area and you would like to hear Bill Purvis live at one of his monthly live BP Leadership Breakfasts, you need to join us on May 6th at 7 a.m. at the Columbus, Georgia Convention and Trade Center. When you join us on that day, you get to hear an amazing leadership lesson from Bill, get some awesome breakfast food, get to participate in some giveaways, as well as network with some key leaders from within our community. If you would like to join us, make sure you go to our website, bpleadership.com, click the events tab at the top of the page, and RSVP for that event. Now, if you're watching this well after May 6th, no worries. Like I said, these are monthly, so do the same thing. Go to our website, hit the events tab, and sign up for an upcoming event. Thank you again for watching. This is where real leaders are made.